Dear ladies and gentlemen, here's an intriguing story about HyperFund, a company that collapsed amidst scandals and allegations of fraud. There has never been a time when cases of pyramid and Ponzi schemes have been as prevalent as during the COVID-19 era. A lot of such schemes came up during that period, leaving many people with significant financial losses later. In fact, many scam victims who reach out to us for help are those who lost money to fraudsters between 2019 and 2022, which essentially was the pandemic period. One particular case that seriously drew our attention over the last few months was HyperFund. We reported and filed countless complaints to the authorities against this firm on behalf of its victims. As things stand currently, there seems to be light at the end of the tunnel. There's a high likelihood that these folks will recover their funds, even if partially. The government has tracked down and apprehended the masterminds of HyperFund. For those who don't know, HyperFund, which has since ceased operations, was a crypto-asset-related Ponzi scheme on a global scale. Through this fraudulent multi-level marketing fraud, the individuals behind it were able to collect over $1.7 billion from victims globally. The well-organized pyramid scheme was launched in June 2020 at the height of the pandemic through a company known as HyperTech Group. HyperTech Group was allegedly founded by a guy called Zhu Li, also known as Sam Li, and other individuals whose identities are not in the public domain. Li is an Australian citizen and also a resident of Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Here's where it begins to get interesting. HyperTech Group, also known as Group Limited, which was the parent company of HyperFund, was incorporated in the Seychelles, an offshore destination, on April 1, 2020, about 3 months or so before HyperFund. The questionable company purportedly operated in Hong Kong. HyperTech Group was also said to be the parent company of 4 other blockchain-related companies besides HyperFund, namely Digital X, HyperCash, formerly known as Cash, Blockchain Global Limited, and Colin Star Capital. Surprisingly, these HyperTech Group subsidiaries, except HyperFund, are still operational. You need to proceed with caution when it comes to these firms, given their relationship with HyperTech Group, the parent company of HyperFund, a firm that has since been shut down due to fraud. HyperFund's conflicting goals. In the beginning, HyperFund purported to be a project aimed at creating a decentralized finance ecosystem. Later on, the objective changed to a populist-focused one. The company announced that it was leveraging blockchain technology to create a decentralized government to overcome societal inequality and injustice, a different goal altogether. It's important to understand that companies that state conflicting goals have financial incentives that are not aligned with the best interests of their clients. In many cases, these entities turn out to be scams. HyperFund's misrepresentation tactics. Further, Mr. Li and his marketers promoted HyperFund's so-called membership packages, which were also referred to as investment contracts, aggressively online. He and Rodney Burton, alongside Brenda Chunga, promised investors high returns from purported massive crypto mining operations. Li and his company's promoters even promised investors daily returns of between 0.5% and 1%. Further claiming that their funds could even triple in under 2 years. To attract more people, they implemented a referral system, rewarding existing members who brought in new investors. As expected, members of the public invested in the company by buying the so-called smart contracts or membership packages at various levels. The company valued the first, second, third, and fourth membership levels at $300, $500, $1,000, and $10,000 respectively. People bought these membership packages through a special link provided by the company. The entity even hired an actor to pretend to be its new CEO at some point. As if that were not enough, Li and his team even claimed association with a top-tier corporation to earn more credibility. However, the reality is that HyperFund wasn't mining crypto assets contrary to its founders' claims, and there were no returns to give to investors. Instead, it was all a pyramid or Ponzi scheme without a real revenue source other than investors' funds. Without legitimate revenue sources, HyperFund paid investor withdrawals using new investors' deposits, which was clearly an unsustainable payment approach. Being unable to sustain this approach for long, the company later blocked the withdrawals, causing widespread panic and frustration among investors. Consequently, it collapsed, leaving investors financially ruined and devastated. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission springs into action. The SEC is an agency of the American government constitutionally mandated to regulate and oversee the players in the securities industry to protect investors and maintain fair markets. These players include brokers, dealers, exchanges, investment advisors, and mutual funds. In early 2024, the Commission brought charges against the founders and promoters. Brenda Chunga in particular agreed to settle the civil charges leveled against her by the Commission. As part of the settlement, she accepted to return more than $3.7 million she obtained from investors fraudulently. This money will be used to compensate the victims. Fell victim to HyperFund or another fraudulent scheme? If so, and you have proof of payment and communication, click on the link in the description below this video to report your case to the authorities and put yourself on the right track to recover your money. Alternatively, send us an email to scamred@scamreader.info. Found this video helpful? If so, kindly remember to share it to alert others and create awareness about pyramid or Ponzi schemes. Also, don't forget to support us and help us grow by subscribing to this channel.